So this is Hong Kong Water Supplies Department. And like many water supplies departments all over the world, they add fluoride to the water supply, to the drinking water. And as they state here, as a preventive measure to reduce dental decay. And on many other dental websites and stuff, like this one, Dental for Health, Life is Better with Teeth, obviously, they try and tell us that fluoride exists naturally in virtually all water supplies, and that it's a nutrient, and it's found naturally in some areas but deficient in others. And it is a mineral, but this natural mineral is not the same thing that's being added to our water supply. So Dr. Bohner, Albert Einstein's nephew, stated in 1952, even in small quantities, sodium fluoride is a deadly poison, to which no effective antidote has been found. Every exterminator knows that it is the most efficient rat killer. Sodium fluoride is entirely different from the organic calcium fluorophosphate needed by our bodies and provided by nature. The non-organic sodium fluoride used in fluoridating water is instant poison to the body. Okay, so the majority of the sodium fluoride added to our water supply is not the organic natural stuff found in our environment. It's so toxic that China have even banned it. And 98% of the Western European countries don't drink fluoridated water. If it's so good for you, why don't they? So in 1988, the National Institute of Dental Research actually surveyed nearly 40,000 school children from fluoridated areas to never fluoridated and partially fluoridated areas in the US. It was found that 70% of the children in all the areas had decayed teeth, regardless of if they had fluoride in the water or not. Yet the National Institute of Dental Research still claimed it reduced tooth decay by 60 to 70%.
Dr. Hertzi.
Good morning, Chairman Smith and Chairman Crapo and fellow staff workers. Thank you for the opportunity to appear today to present the views of the union on the issue of fluoridation of public water supplies. Our union represents the staff, scientists, lawyers, and others who analyze hazard, exposure, and economic data and advise management how to use them in public health protection. I'm not here today to speak for EPA, but rather the union, founded 17 years ago to protect EPA workers from unethical pressure by EPA managers. It was on that basis in 1985 that we first got involved in this issue. In 1997, we voted to oppose fluoridation, and our opposition has grown stronger as more adverse data on the practice has come in. In the interest of time, let me state our recommendations first. We ask that you order an independent review of the cancer bioassay of sodium fluoride mandated in 1977 by Congress. Evidence for carcinogenicity in that assay was systematically downgraded by a special executive branch commission appointed and run by the very agencies that Congress did not trust to run the bioassay in the first place. That action saved fluoridation temporarily. We ask that you order chronic toxicity studies on the two waste products that are now used in 90% of fluoridation programs. EPA says there are at present no chronic toxicity data on them, and we ask that you order EPA set an MCL for fluoride that's truly protective of all American citizens, infants and adults alike, because the current one does not.
So did you get that? When the Environmental Protection Agency in the US was asked if they had any data on the toxic waste, because it is industrial toxic waste they're using as fluoride, if they had any studies of it on health and behavior, they wrote back and said no. So they had no studies on their detrimental or even beneficial effects on health prior, and this is in year 2000. Yet it was being added, and probably still is, to people's water supply for people to drink. And the thing is, they don't distinguish between the two. They don't distinguish between natural fluoride and waste product fluoride. And it's quite obvious that you should, shouldn't you? So this is I Like My Teeth org, and they admit that this is what it does to your teeth. I mean, all the dental websites do. I just chose this one because it had a picture. I mean, this is not in severe. This is severe. I mean, look. Eek. I mean, if this is what it does to your teeth, I hate to think what it's doing to our internal bones. And I've seen people with these teeth, I'm sorry. And they say they do their best to regulate it, but hey, it's difficult because we get it in our food and stuff. Well, of course it's in our food. I mean, we prepare our food with it. We cook with it. I mean, it's in our rice. It's in our pasta. It's in our soup. It's in everything we eat and probably drink, really. And if they can't regulate it, then why are they putting us to risk? This is Save Our Bones website, and of course it talks about how to save our bones. And here it states fluoride depletes calcium. Of course it does. It binds onto calcium and it forms calcium fluoride. And this, of course, as they state, preventing it from being absorbed into your bones. So how good can it really be for our bones and teeth? Think about it. And here it states fluoride ingestion has been directly linked to an increase in hip fractures. There's a whole list of studies that have actually been done that show a whole load of negative aspects of fluoride. Okay, it destroys collagen, which is needed, as you know, for our skin and everything. That's why it's called the aging factor. It suppresses the immune system by reducing the movement of white blood cells by 70%. So that greatly affects its ability to reach their targets. It increases cancer tumour growth by 25%. If the white blood cells aren't getting to the tumour effectively, then of course the tumour is going to grow. So there's a whole list of things. So even Harvard University carried out a study which confirmed fluoride reduces children's IQ. And even down here, it states how in the Journal of American Dental Association in 1944, they even stated that drinking water containing as little as 1.2 ppm, which is parts per million, fluoride will cause developmental disturbances. We cannot run the risk of producing such serious, systematic disturbances. The potential for harm outweigh those for good. So this is Harvard University's newsletter and the impact of fluoride on neurological development in children. And here it says, fluoride seems to fit in with lead, mercury and other poisons that cause chemical brain damage. The effect of each toxin may seem small, but the combined damage on a population scale can be serious. So this is Dr. Marco, and he talks about fluoride, the toxic import from China. Because remember, they actually ban it because it's so toxic. And he talks about how America actually imports it from China to put it in their drinking water. So the American Dental Association recommends that a woman have about 3 milligrams per day and men about 4 as optimum. This is the same amount that causes between 0.8 and 0.12 level of fluoride in the blood. The same level showing an 8-point IQ drop. Here it says, water fluoridation equals profitable toxic waste disposal. So Robert Carlton, who used to be a scientist at the US Environmental Protection Agency, said, fluoridation is the greatest cause of scientific fraud of this century, if not of all time. So there were loads and still are loads and loads of conflicts of interest at play behind why the US still fluoridate their water and why there's still so much support for it. And if you want to know more about that, then please read the article below because this is just a short version for the petition. So this is Dr. Dean Burke, and he worked for 34 years at the US Government National Cancer Institute. And he headed the biochemistry section there for 30 years before he retired. So in his 1977 study, which he did for the government, he found loads of detrimental effects of fluoride. The study showed how it increased tumours, it caused rare bone cancer, rare liver cancer, and also increased the cancer death rate dramatically instantly.
Now, Dr. Burke, your research shows that if all of the United States had been fluoridated, that would mean about 70,000 extra deaths because of cancer per annum. Those are remarkable, impressive, and in fact rather disquieting figures. Could you shortly describe your research in this field and what results did you get from it?
Yes. The 70,000, of course, would represent 1/5 of all the cancer deaths in the United States, twice as many from breast cancer in women, and twice as many as from lung cancer in man. Our studies involve comparing the deaths of all persons in the 10 largest fluoridated cities of the United States with the 10 largest non-fluoridated cities in the United States year by year. And we obtained a very remarkable curve, which you can see here perhaps. Here is the fluoridated, and here is the non-fluoridated set of 10 cities each. Here's where the fluoridation started, and before this time, both sets of cities were identical. But no sooner had fluoridation started than this curve began to go up, the deaths began to increase, so that this effect occurs very promptly within 1, 2, or 5 years.
Now this, sir, is conclusive evidence that fluor kills because of cancer.
It is one of the most conclusive bits of scientific and biological evidence that I have come across in my 50 years in the field of cancer research.
Would this then, in your opinion, be the end of fluor in water, in drinking water?
It should be the end, and in the United States, it should so be the end by federal law known as the Delaney Amendment, which says that anything found to induce cancer in man or animals cannot be legally put into the food or drink of man or animals. And so, and this is all less than 1 year old, so that it entirely changes any previous ideas of fluoridation that anyone may have had, because this is the first real indication of an important effect.
Now
This, you see, amounts to public murder on a grand scale. It is a public crime, it would be, to put fluoride in the drinking water of people.
There is, of course, you talk about murder, sir, an ethical aspect to all this, a law aspect, an aspect of people's inhumanity to people. What is your idea about how should this be implemented in our society? The ethical aspects of administering poison, as it were, to people.
Well, I think this aspect, this murder aspect, clearly indicates a very strong unethical aspect to forcing people to kill themselves.
So this is Dr. Hertzie again. In summary, we hold that fluoridation is an unreasonable risk. Toxicity of fluoride is so great and the purported benefits are so small, and requiring everybody to ingest it borders on criminal behaviour on the part of the governments. Fluoride that is added to the water is a hazardous waste product. There is substantial evidence of adverse health effects, contrary to public perception, and virtually no evidence of significant benefits. So we can avoid fluoride by drinking bottled water, but of course that's not good for our environment because it produces a lot of plastic waste. In fact, we can recycle, and rather than buying small bottles, we can refill them with bigger bottles. And there's also toothpaste out there like this one, La Vera, the kids' tooth gel, doesn't contain fluoride, but some of the adult ones do. But the thing is, we still absorb fluoride when we shower through our skin. And also it's in our food, as I said before, if we wash and prepare it with tap water. So even if there was some benefit to fluoride, it's now totally outweighed by all the studies showing its detrimental effects. I mean, if it's to prevent dental decay, we can teach our children how to brush their teeth and good dental hygiene. I mean, this isn't the 1940s when they first introduced fluoride into the US water supply, and they really should cease to put it in our water supply until they're 100% that it's safe for us, which is very unlikely with the results of the other studies. So please sign the petition, because there's no reason why they should be putting you or your children at risk. And for people who believe in fluoride, they can go and buy fluoridated toothpaste or mouthwash and stuff. But for the people who don't want it, they shouldn't be forced to drink it or eat it. So we really should have the choice. Please share this so more people can sign the petition. And because we need to re-educate people on this.